can't do live on both. Okay, so we're live, hopefully at least on one device. For Coffee and Kabbalah. Hi, Parsha Vayetzei. This class is going to be part 2 of dreams. So in this class, we're going to be covering our dreams and what they mean in 4 different stages or levels of dreams. So this is a follow-up. Last week, we began to learn about dreams and their connection to Kislev. So the reason that in this month of Kislev, we're talking about dreams, I'll summarize in very short, is for 3 different connections that I know of. Well, the main connection is that there are only 10 dreams in the entire Torah. Let's say that a person had a dream. 9 out of those 10 dreams are read during the Parshios, read in Kislev. So Vayetzei, Vayishlach, and Miketz. And Vayetzei, Miketz, and Vayigash are all read during the month of Kislev. And those cover 9 out of the 10 dreams. To summarize, those dreams are the 2 dreams of Yaakov, which are in this week's Parsha. Yaakov had a dream about the ladder with the angels going up and down the ladder. Yaakov has a dream about the sheep. Then there's a dream of Lavan, who's told not to harm any head of Yaakov's, anything on Yaakov, which is in this week's Parsha Vayetzei. Then we have in Parshas Miketz 2 dreams that Yosef has, prophesying that he will rule over his brothers. And then we have, in Vayeshev, and we also have in Vayeshev and Miketz the dreams of the butler and the baker, and the 2 dreams of Paro. So those are 9 dreams. They're all read during the month of Kislev. The other connection to dreams, why Kislev is the best time to work on our level of dreams and to access and refine this dimension of dreaming, is because Kislev, in the month of Kislev, the nights are the longest. It gets dark very early, and we know that even the darkness affects our quality of sleep, right? It produces more melatonin when it's dark outside. So it's the best time. We have the longest nights to elevate our element of sleeping, our element of dreaming. And the other connection that I didn't mention yet is really cool. Every month we learn is connected to one of the stones on the Kohen's breastplate. And the 9th stone on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, on the Choshen, I did say this, is the Achlama, the amethyst, which in Hebrew has a shoresh of Chalom, which is to dream. And the Radak says that anyone who wears an amethyst at nighttime will likely see dreams. So there's a connection between even the breastplate, even the gem, and the 9th month of Kislev. So that's the background. So based on that, Sefer Yetzirah tells us that the bodily sense in every month has a different bodily sense that we can elevate, and the bodily sense in Kislev, Sefer Yetzirah, the first book of Kabbalah, tells us that the bodily sense that we elevate in this month is our sense of sleeping and dreaming. And in this class, we're going to cover the 4 the levels of our dreams, because there's a lot of not controversial, but opposite information. How do I say this in English? Opposing information given to us about dreams. There's a lot of sources in the Talmud that tell us that dreams are meaningless. That the reason why dreams are meaningless is because dreams are a result of what we think about during the day, what occupies our thoughts during the day. So there was somebody who wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe about a very worrisome dream he had, and gently, nicely, the Rebbe told him that if you were at tzaddik, that you dream about what you think about during the day. So if you were at tzaddik and all of your thoughts were calculated and thought out and pure, then maybe what you dream about is something at night, it's something to be concerned about. But with all due respect, probably most of what we think about during the day is total nonsense, right? The Piatzena Rebbe was very much like helping us be aware of our thoughts. And most of our thoughts, he says, is like monkey thoughts, or he called them horse thoughts, because in those days, like, they're just leading us not leading them. So because our thoughts are all over the place, most of what we think about at night is going to reflect that. Actually, the Gemara tells us that dreams are a result of 3 things. The first thing that dreams are a result of are the food that we ate before we went to bed, because our liver affects the way that we dream. So the food that we eat affects our dreams. The next thing that could affect our dreams is our thoughts during the day. And the third thing is a divine prophecy from God, is divine revelation. And they are a mixture of the 3. So it's not black and white. So on the one hand, there are a lot of sources in the Gemara that seem to imply that a dream is just thoughts that you thought about during the day. So if you think about joyful thoughts before you go to bed, you should be joyful before you go to bed, and you should listen to joyful music and sing songs and say Shema. That way your dreams will be peaceful. And if you watch a horror movie before you go to bed, you're probably going to have a horrific, terrifying dream. So our dreams go after what we thought about during the day. However, there's a lot of other sources in the Gemara that seem to imply otherwise. In the Torah, throughout the Torah, we see that dreams are taken very seriously. The 10 dreams in the Torah all have extreme significance. The Gemara has many stories where somebody's dream, the Gemara speaks a lot about dreams, but the main part of the Gemara that speaks about dreams is in Masechet Brachot, page 55a. Over there, the Gemara goes through many things that you dream about and what they mean if you see them in a dream. And I'll go through them. So Gemara 55b says, let me see this. These are signs of good dreams. The following nocturnal visions are considered positive signs: a well, what you have in the parsha, a river, a bird, a kettle, a donkey, a white horse, Yishmael, Pinchas, King David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech, an elephant with a saddle. If you dream about wheat, barley, a grapevine laden with grapes, a fig, a pomegranate, olives, an olive tree, dates, goats, a myrtle branch attached to the tree, a citron, a palm frond, which is a lulav, I think, a goose, chickens, or seeing yourself get a haircut, seeing your jawbone fall out, having a boat ride, saying Shema, responding to Kaddish, or putting on tefillin. All those are good signs to have in a dream. I also heard, it's also said in the Gemara somewhere else, that seeing the letter Tes. I don't know who's dreaming of letters of Tes, but if you did, that's a good sign. Then the Gemara says that you should look forward to the fulfillment of a good dream up to 22 years later. And we learned this from Yosef, who had the dream about ruling his brothers, and that was only fulfilled 22 years later. So up to 22 years for a good dream to be fulfilled. So from this and many other sources, we see that dreams do have significance, that people would come to big tzaddikim and say, what is my dreaming? And they would interpret their dreams. So we have a lot, the word I was looking for was conflicting. So we see a lot of conflicting information where it seems that in some places dreams are inconsequential, and other places dreams do have significance, even for the simple person who doesn't have purified thoughts all the time. So here's how we can reconcile it. We can understand that there's levels of dreams, that some dreams are nonsense, and there's different levels to our dreams. And actually, the first Jewish person to dream in the Torah is Yaakov. And Yaakov's dream is about a ladder. And a ladder is actually a metaphor for dreaming. In a basic level, the ladder represents levels of dreams. That just like he had a dream about a ladder, our dreams have different levels to them. There's basic levels of dreaming where the dream is just because of the food we ate and that's why we're dreaming about that, or something that we thought about right before going to bed, etc. And on higher levels, we get to higher levels of dreams and how they can elevate us and inform us about deep things in our soul, in our superconscious, and our subconscious. So we're going to climb up that ladder in a moment. But just the metaphor of the ladder from Yaakov, because that's in this week's Parsha, and Parshat Vayetzei, hey, there's another lesson from another connection from a ladder, another lesson that we learned from a ladder and dreaming. And that is that it says in the dream that Yaakov's ladder, Mutzav Arza, it's sourced, the bottom of the ladder was in this world. And the top of the ladder, Varosha Magiyam Shemaima. So he has this vision of a ladder, a dream, that the bottom of the ladder is in the world, in the ground, and the top of the ladder is in the heavens. And that's what a dream does. A dream helps us bridge, just like that ladder was a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world and the heavens. A dream is a bridge for us between our physical reality and the spiritual reality and our soul. So our dreams can actually act as a bridge. And one Jew who would talk about this a lot was Freud, right? Freud discovered this connection between dreaming as a bridge between our conscious reality, our bodily physical awareness, and what he called the subconscious. But in Chassidus, we learned that a dream could actually inform us and give us an access. A dream is a way that we can tap into levels of our neshama, levels of our soul, and levels of spirituality that are very shemayimdik, heavenly, that we can't access during the day because our conscious mind is limiting us, because our beliefs are limiting us, because of our logical setbacks, because the world around us is stopping us from being able to access these high levels. But when we go to sleep and our mind and our logic is sleeping, and the left side, our logical brain is asleep, and then when we go to sleep at night, then our neshama could Mod kashe lechet. He wants to do it. He'll do it. He just wants the keys so he can get through with his car. This is falafel owner. His falafel's the best. Yeah.
How are they doing?
Ask him.
Did you try it?
I tried the falafel. It's very good.
Is it open every day?
Yeah. Yeah. People go for dinner all the time. Okay. So going back to dreams. So dreams are a bridge between our physical reality and the spiritual reality in the spiritual world, especially because we discussed a little bit that in dreams, opposites can exist. In the physical world, we're very limited. Everything is black and white. What you see is what you get. And in the spiritual world, right, things that we cannot see, it's the things that we can only believe, things that we can't imagine and can't see. And in dreams, it's a bridge between the two of those. We have physical objects in our dream, doing them possible, doing things that are human beings flying, right? People doing things that are impossible in the physical normal reality. So it's a bridge between the limited physical world and the metaphysical world, which is angels, God, nisim, miracles, things that we can't even fathom. And in our dream, we can put those two together. So our dreams really allow us to combine those two levels of the infinite and the finite. So dreams are a key that Hashem gave us. It actually is brought down in the Gemara and in a few places in the Zohar that Hashem gave us dreams for our neshama to have visions of things that are too high to access during the day. So dreams are something Hashem gave us to have a certain level of nevuah. So we're going to go through the ladder now of the levels of dreams. So on the bottom rung of the ladder is the most basic level of dreams, where a majority of our dreams are just based on either what we ate during the day, the food we ate right before we went to bed, which is why it says not to eat right before you go to bed, because it could mess up our dreams, and it could our processing of the food is interfering with our dreams and could lead to much more stressful sleep. But our food that we ate, or even what we thought about during the day, or we thought about right before we went to bed, with that, if we didn't put everything aside and move everything away, then we might be tormented with those thoughts. So that's at the bottom rung of the ladder. And those dreams are dreams that we dismiss. They wake up in the morning, you say it was just a dream, it was just me processing the day. It's also a healthy thing. It actually says that, just like dream, I forget who says this, that just like sweating out of fever is like filtering out the negative out of your body, a dream is like filtering out through the day all the bad things that have to come out. So when you have a bad dream, it actually says it's a good thing. It's like sweating in a fever. It's a good thing because you're getting out all the garbage from your day. You're processing all the unprocessed things that are underneath. So that's at the bottom of the ladder, which is not very bad. It's pretty good, right? Our subconscious is getting rid of all this garbage, making sense and processing out and weeding out all the bad things. It's actually brought down in the Gemara that a tzaddik who has a bad dream, it's a good thing, it's a blessing for him. And a rasha who has a tzaddik who has a bad dream, it's a blessing, because it's like a kapara. Instead of anything happening in real life, he's having these bad dreams to like filter out anything negative, and it's coming through a dream instead of happening in real life. And for a rasha who has a good dream, it's like his reward. He got it in a dream, but not in real life. So it's this like cleansing process of something that happened through the day. It's not something that in the morning you have to give any thought to. If you're worried about it, you just say, well, I have a bunch of wacko thoughts in the day, so my dreams were also wacko. That's fine. So that's the bottom rung of the ladder. As we climb up to the next level of the ladder, we understand that our dreams can also, that if we have a dream, we wake up in the morning, we say, what was that all about? The first thing to do is think about, did I eat anything before I went to bed that might have been involved? Did I think about something? Was that connected to something I was thinking about during the day, a movie that I saw? If the answer to all of that is no, then it could be that the second rung of the ladder is that the dreams are our subconscious informing us about things, unprocessed things, about things that are coming from our subconscious. And that is interesting because there's a very clear link between Freud, was the father of like psychology, and one of his basic theories, can I have a marker, was the iceberg theory. Are any of you familiar with iceberg theory? So Freud explained the subconscious mind, similar to that every human being is like an iceberg. Which part of the iceberg is actually tremendous and enormous? But the part of the iceberg that we usually see that's above the water is a tiny, tiny part of it. This is the part of the iceberg that we see. What gives it its power, why it's so powerful, there's just tall icicles sticking out. Why is it so powerful if a boat hits it? What makes it powerful is not that little part sticking out of the water. What gives it its power is the enormous mountain that's under the water that we cannot see. And he says every human being is an iceberg. And this is his iceberg subconscious, Freud's subconscious iceberg theory. That what we see, what we access, what we're aware of, all the thoughts and feelings that we're aware of are only the tip of the iceberg. They are only a tiny bit of what's actually going on in the subconscious. The subconscious mind is a mountain of emotions, subconscious feelings and thoughts that we're not even aware of at all, that are happening in the bottom of the iceberg. And that is why on the upside, if we have someone hurts us a little bit, we have this giant reaction sometimes. The reason we have big reactions sometimes on the top is and all the big reactions that happen are a result of something that's in the subconscious that we're not aware of. And Chassidus is very big on, Chassidus has a very similar idea in that our awareness of what we have going on is very little. We have a huge world of neshamas, as souls, and Chassidus it tells us all the time how important it is to tap into this, to be aware of the world going on underneath the surface. If you were just on the surface, it would be so hard to figure out. And one of the mishalim for this, was in last week's parsha, when it says Rivka was pregnant with twins, right? Where Rivka, all she knew is that her stomach is big and it's pushing in two different directions, right? And the awareness for her, she said, what's going on here? And she was so torn because I have this baby that's putting pull to good things and bad things. And the answer to Rivka wasn't like, the answer to Rivka that she was given was, oh, you have twins, not just one baby. One is good and one is evil. He didn't solve anything, the rabbi who helped her, Shame or Aver, who told her what's going on. All he did is give her an awareness to what's happening beneath the surface, and that already calmed her. And Chassidus tells us that the first thing in Tanya, the very first chapter of Tanya, says that we are all conflicted like Rivka. All of us are pregnant with twins, right? That's what I titled the shir that week. Every one of us is pregnant with twins. Every one of us struggles in life. And our struggles in life come because we have two souls, not one soul. We have one part of us that loves pleasurable things, likes nice things. We want things that feel good and are enjoyable in life. But then there's another part of us that wants to be better, that wants to do the right thing, that wants to be higher and connect our high self, connect our neshama, go to Torah classes. And the other part of us is like, I just want to sleep and watch Netflix, right? Which one do I do? And we're conflicted all the time. And that conflict is only torturous if we're not aware of where it's coming from. But Chassidus in Tanya attempts to give us a glimpse. The first 9 chapters of Tanya are all explaining what's happening beneath the surface. The 2 different souls, our psyche, what's happening under the surface. That inside of us, we are twins. We have a Yaakov and Esav inside of us. It doesn't fix it. We still have an Esav inside of us. It doesn't take it away. But the awareness of what's happening inside takes away the suffering. It makes us already be able to understand what's happening and deal with life. And from that knowledge and understanding of the subconscious, of what's happening beneath the surface, it empowers us to grab hold, to take charge, to answer that Yaakov and Esav battle. Chapter 9 of Tanya tells us that we're in a constant battle, that if we tune in to our subconscious for one day, and you'll notice how often throughout the day you're battling this Yaakov and Esav battle inside of you, the battle of your body versus your soul, of your animal soul that just wants to do nothing or do the wrong thing or do things that feel good, like eat that thing, and your soul that wants to do something that's higher, that's for your highest self. That battle is happening almost constantly. It's a never-ending battle. No one ever wins. And Tanya, the whole Tanya is to explain to us what to do with this battle, what's the point of it, what's the point of this life if we can ever win, what it means if we, how we overcome and how we live like this, and what is the purpose of it, and what's the deeper meaning to it. And when we are aware of that, that really enriches our life. So that was all to say that this idea of the superconscious, in Freud's words, is really what Kabbalah and Chassidus is all about, to give us a glimpse into the soul, into what's happening beneath the surface. And going back to dreams, Freud discovered that it's very hard sometimes. So much of our subconscious is inaccessible to us. It's way beneath the ocean of our subconscious. How do we access it? One of the ways to access it, Chassidus is one of the ways to access it. The main thing is Chassidus tells us about our midos, right? When we refine our midos in Sfiras Omer, every week we work on another midah. That's already giving us access and giving us awareness, and we are working on our midos and accessing our subconscious. And there's different ways that Hashem communicates our subconscious to us, like lights from God, sparks and moments from above. And one of the ways is through dreaming, and specifically in the month of Kislev. And one of the ways that our subconscious can communicate with us, that our neshama can communicate with us, is during the day. Sometimes it's so hard because our brain is so active. We're so distracted, especially now in this generation with phones and with ADD, being ADHD, and every distraction and everything in the world. We're so distracted, it's so hard to get in touch with our soul's messages. And when our active brain and our active mind and our crazy wild thoughts are sleeping at night, that's when our neshama could poke through. And that's why Hashem uses nighttime as a time to communicate, our neshama to communicate to us. So one of the second rung of the ladder, to summarize, is that dreams can sometimes, if they're not just something you thought about right before you went to bed or during the day a lot, then it could be that it's your subconscious communicating things to you that are in your subconscious, in your superconscious, in your, I'm trying to think of the word in Chassidus for subconscious. I'm blanking out. I guess neshama, nefesh, nefesh, ruach, neshama, in those levels of your soul. In your higher conscious levels that you're not able to access during the day. And I'll give you some examples from my life. There's times when I had a conflict with somebody in my life, or something that I was working through, a stressful period in my life, and I'm over it. Like, I worked through it, I'm done, we made peace, and I haven't thought about it in like weeks, but then I keep dreaming about that person at night, or I'm keep dreaming about that conflict, or in my dream that person is still bothering me or hurting my feelings or being mean to me, and I'm like, I thought we're over this, I haven't even seen this person or thought about this person, why is this still coming up for me, right? Or I had this conflict or this situation in my childhood and I keep dreaming about it. I haven't spoken to that person in my childhood, that place. Why is that place from such a long time ago coming up in my dreams so often? Why is that my childhood home coming up in my dream? What's it telling me in my subconscious? It means that subconsciously there's something underneath that's informing me, that this is something that I'm still weighing on me, or it's still talking to me, or it's still giving me a message. It doesn't mean I have to go call that person to make amends. It doesn't mean I have to act on it, but just I can do whatever I want with it. It might mean I have to process in myself any left lingering resentment or feelings to something that happened in the past. It might mean that I have to learn a message from that moment. It might mean that time in my childhood was very powerful for me, and try and figure out what that is and what I can learn from that and why it's coming up. And it might just mean that awareness that this is something that's still weighing on me, this past conflict. It might just be to know that this is something that's still weighing on me, and to be aware of it, and then it'll help me understand why I'm triggered so much sometimes and why I'm so sensitive to certain things, because this past trigger is still something that resides within me. So the glimpse into the subconscious is the next level of dreams. So sometimes not to dismiss dreams, to say, well, why am I dreaming about this? I haven't thought about that all day. Like, where's this coming from? This place, this person, this scenario, why what's going on? Maybe this is my subconscious telling me that there's something, that maybe this is my neshama telling me that there's in my subconscious, I'm not aware of it during the day, but this is something I should probably deal with, think about, be aware of at least, that this is something that's there. That was wrong too. Okay, now climbing up the ladder of dreams. This is where dreams get even more prophetic. The Gemara says that just like there is once every sleeping is 1/60th death. When we go to sleep, that's why we wash our hands in the morning, because there's 1/60th of death, which is the greatest tumah that comes into our body, and we wash our hands in the morning to remove that impurity from our body. It's very important to wash our hands in the morning. We're not even supposed to eat or touch food unless we wash our hands. Now, similarly, the Gemara says that every dream, just like every dream, has 1/60th of prophecy in it. There's no dream that doesn't have 1/60th of prophecy, because that's when our neshama is elevated. Also, because our neshama ascends to a very high place when we're sleeping, our neshama gets a level of nevuah. Our neshama goes back up to a higher source where she can access visions and see things in the future, things that are going to happen to us, very high things that she can't see when she's more tied to the body. So it says in Kabbalah that the connection, the tightness between the body and the soul, who are tightly connected during when we're awake, are loosened a little bit when you go to sleep, because your neshama is slightly removed from your body. It's still keeping your body alive, but it's going up to a higher place. And in that higher space, it can have 1/60th, at least 1/60th of prophecy. So there is prophecy in your dreams. Now is when it gets complicated. How do you know if your dream is prophetic in your dream? And what if it's a bad prophecy? What if you have a scary dream? So here's where the Lubavitch Rebbe actually was very clear, made it very clear and easy for us. And I'm going to divide this into two rungs. So the next rung is that every dream has 1/60th of prophecy, and there's some prophetic element to your dream. So now what do you do with that? You wake up in the morning, you had either a happy dream about something, being married, having a baby, something joyful happening in your life, right? That could be a prophecy. That's great. Think about it, save it. Like Yosef, it says, if you have a good dream, save it, think about it, and manifest that in your mind and cultivate that so that it happens in reality. So that's that level of prophecy. If you have a dream of something positive happening to you or someone that you know, then enhance that dream by visualizing it and manifesting it and waiting for it to happen. Just like it says that Yaakov, when Yosef told Yaakov that he had a dream that he was going to be the ruler, it says, Aviv Shamar Sadavar. He kept it in his mind. He stored it in his mind and he thought about it and he waited for it to happen. He didn't just forget about it. Don't forget about it. Wait for that dream to happen and materialize it in your brain so that it actually happens. Now, what if you have a bad dream? What if you have a dream that's very scary? Somebody, God forbid, is sick or dies in your dream. What do you do with that? Is it prophecy or is it just nonsense? What do you do with that kind of dream? So this is where it gets really amazing. So the Gemara says, and I think I even brought this in the source. Anyone's
In the morning prayers, it says to interpret it to be good.
Exactly. Okay, this is where it gets really cool. So the dream, this is the fourth rung, that a dream goes after the interpretation. We're going to break it down soon. But that with the way, when you have a negative dream, on a basic, on the simple level, that a dream goes after the interpretation. And the Gemara learns this from Yosef. That by Yosef, two things it says. I brought my Tanakh. I don't know if I'll find the Pasukim. One, it says that the dreams happened like Yosef prophesies. When Yosef translated the dreams of both the butler and baker and of Yaakov, both times it says that the dreams followed Yosef's interpretation. And the Gemara actually learns that the dreams happen that way because Yosef interpreted it that way. Because Yosef interpreted that the butler's dream of being saved is that of the wine, I forget what his dream was, that meant that he would be taken out of prison and come out and be saved. That's why that happened. And because Yosef interpreted the baker's dream where the birds were eating bread off his head, that he was going to die, that's why it happened that he died. And the Gemara goes so far to give examples of people who came to Tanaim in the Gemara. And then one of the main examples that people a lot of times know is that it's known that dreaming about teeth falling out is a bad omen. And teeth falling out in a dream is a very bad omen.
Seriously?
People used to fast for it. Don't say it. If you dream about it, wait, don't say it yet. Okay, so we have to talk to a rabbi. So listen to what happened though. So a lot of people would fast. Like what I once dreamt that, my rabbi said I should fast, or at least give the equivalent of food for a day to tzedakah instead of fasting. People would even fast on Shabbos in the olden days for the dreams like that. But in the Gemara, the story goes, and it's really fascinating. I hope I have the source. But the source in the Gemara is that somebody had this dream of teeth falling out, and he came to the Tana and he told him that teeth are what grind your food, and allow you to eat food. So it means that you're going to be it's going to mean that you're going to have a lot of wealth. And that man became very wealthy. And another person came to another Tana with the same dream, and he said, it means you're going to die, and he died. And he said, you killed him. Because of how you interpreted, that's what made him die. That it's because I interpreted he's going to be wealthy, it happened that way. And how does that work? We learned the power of manifestation, especially during the month of Kislev, of how powerful our thoughts are to manifest our reality, and especially our words, even more than our thoughts to create a reality. That the trachuf at Zayin Good is like one of the principal Chabad ideas, that when you think good, it will be good. Your thoughts draw that reality. We learned that from Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshat Vayetzei, when he was afraid, it says, and Paro, it says he was afraid that when he killed the Misri, the Egyptian, he was afraid, and then Paro found out. And Rashi says that because he was afraid, that's why Paro found out. Because his fear of Paro finding pointing out made that reality happen. Our thoughts create a reality, and even more than our thoughts creating a real reality is manifesting reality is our speech. The same way that God created the world and manifested the world that we live in through his speech, our speech mirrors God's speech, and that every time we speak something into existence, it creates it into a tangible, real reality. So when Yosef would interpret someone's dream in speech, or in the Gemara, when they would interpret that dream into something like that, it would become so real that it would follow the interpretation. So Ish Kipisrono Pasar is one of the verses in the Torah where it says that each one, according to their interpretation, it became interpreted. That their interpretation is what causes it to happen that way, which is very crazy about the power of interpretation. There's even a story in the Gemara that a person came to a big Tana and he said, tell me what I'm going to dream about tonight. And he said, okay. And he gave him a very, very vivid dream. You're going to go to this and this place, and this is going to happen. And that night he dreamt about it. He said, how did you know? He said, well, I told you this dream. You were thinking about it the whole day, so you dreamt about it. It's the power of our speech to manifest something into reality, because when you speak something, it becomes real. You think about it, and then it becomes a reality. It becomes real. And like, I personally remember the power of our perception and of manifesting a real reality. When I was single, I was sure I could run a marathon, and I trained within like a couple of days, even pregnant, I was running a 5K. Like, no problem. In my mind, I'm like, everyone runs marathons, I can do it. After I had a baby, I had severe postpartum depression. I felt like I'm incapable of doing anything. Years later, I was still affected by that feeling of perception that I can't do anything. That feeling of I could do anything from being before now has shifted until today, where that like I can't do anything, that was squashed by the depression. Even though thank God I'm better, that feeling is still something that I'm working on. And I remember joining a running group years later, and the same me, I was the youngest person in the running group. I couldn't complete, like after a few months, I still couldn't complete the 5K run, because in my mind I'm like, that's crazy, I'm never gonna be able to run 5K. I barely exercise, how am I gonna be able to run 5K? And most of the women were older than me and they were able to finish it. But I think my perception made that materialize in a reality. So we see the power of how you think about something, creating that tangible reality, and especially how we speak about something. So now taking that back to dreams, what do we do if we have a negative dream? So we don't just automatically interpret it positively. So the third wrong was that dreams are some level of prophecy. If you have a good dream, you want to materialize that, you want to manifest that in your thoughts, you want to wait for it to happen. It actually says not to speak about it. If you have a good dream, you want to shamar, save it like Yaakov, and wait for it to happen. Then because maybe speaking about it will like get switched along the way, right? Then I'm not sure why, that's my made up thought. Then the fourth rung of the ladder is what you do if you have a not good dream. Now you have a dream that's worrying you. So the first thing you do is okay, so we're going to take this back now in your sources. I brought you from Shlomo Melech, I think I brought you, who says that Daiga, believe, and Mishlei, Shlomo Melech, the wisest man on earth, says, if you have a Daiga, believe, enosh yasichenu. If you have a worry in your heart, what should you do? You should talk about it. You should yasichenu. But yasichenu has two meanings. And the Gemara says two things. Yasichenu midaita. There's two, it says, my wind muff is gone. The Gemara says, Shlomo Melech said, yasichenu, that if you have a worry in your heart, you should yasichenu. What does that mean? There was two Tanas. One said, yasichenu midaita, you push it out of your mind and you don't think about it. The other one said, Chad Amar, yasichenu lacherim, you should discuss it with others. Yasichenu has two interpretations. One means to push away and one means to discuss with other people. Now, the Rebbe said they're not two different answers. They're actually one answer. The first thing you should do if something is worrying you, if you have something that you're worried about, an anxiety, a fear of something really bad happening, something that's on your heart, the first thing you want to do is try and push it out of your mind and replace it with a positive thought. Because we know how powerful our thoughts are in manifesting a reality, we don't want to give it any space. So if you have this anxiety come up, a worry come up, or it applies to dreams, the Rebbe says, a bad dream, the first thing you want to do is say, it's just a dream, it's not real, it's a bad thought, everything is amazing, everything's going to be good, I'm stronger than this, I got this, I can do this, everything's going to be okay, I am safe, I am loved by Hashem, whatever positive thought you want to bring in instead of that thought. Because we don't want to give it any reality by manifesting it, by thinking about it more, by talking about it. We just want to be able to push it away. So the first line of defense is yasichenu, push that thought away. So that we're going back to like rung one of the ladder. You have a scary dream, say, it's nonsense, right? It's nothing, it's a dream. It means that everything's going to be amazing. I'm going to have a great day. I was filtering out the bad things. My body's sweating out the garbage, right? Whatever it is, and replace it with something positive. Now, if you can't do that, sometimes anxiety is persistent. Sometimes the dream is persistent. Sometimes, even though I tried so hard to push it away, it comes back and it's weighing on me, and I can't get rid of that thought, and I can't get rid of that anxiety and worry, and it's just weighing on me. What do I do then? Then go to the second translation, which is yasichenu lacherim. So Rabbi is saying Shlomo Melech had both intentions in mind. Try and push it away away so you don't manifest it. If you can't, then the next best thing to do is talk about it to other people. If you have a worry on your heart, something you're worried about, the best thing to do is talk about it to someone else. Just talking already will alleviate. You'll feel less alone. You'll feel like you got something off your chest. But even more than just talking about the worry, the best thing to do, especially with a bad dream, you had a scary dream, you're worried about what it means, you had a dream that something really bad happened. Now, what does it mean to tell it to other people? It means, like Efrat said, that you should say it to other people and have them interpret it positively. And this is what we learn in Judaism. It's called hatavat hachalom, that we're very much pro in Judaism. We always said in the beginning there's conflicting realities, that dreams mean nothing, but at the same time, there's a whole tefillah in the Siddur called hatavat hachalom, which means betterfying your dreams, hatavat, making your dream better, bringing out the good in your dream, making a bad dream into a good dream. And also in Birkat Kohanim, the verses that we say at the priestly blessing is, Ribono Shalom, if I had a bad dream, make it a good dream. So clearly dreams have some significance. And so when we have a bad dream, and we can't just push it out of our mind and say it's not real, then what we want to do is go over to 2 or 3 good friends, people who love you and care about you. This is what it says to do in the Gemara. And you tell them, Chalom Tov Chalamti, I had a good dream. And then you tell them the dream, which wasn't a good dream, and you tell them, please interpret it for the good. And you ask them to interpret it in a way that it comes out good. And throughout the Gemara, we see this. There was someone who had a terrible dream. He says, this really means that you're going to have wives, right? You're going to have a lot of blessings. You're going to have bracha. You're going to have wealth. You're going to have a long life. And they find a way to connect the details of your dream to mean a secret blessing, a blessing, a bil bracha. And you say, Amen, it was a good dream. And they say, yes, it was a good dream. And then the dream will happen after the way that they interpreted it. And there's even a nusach of tefillah that you say in the Siddur of hatavat chalom, where you say the dream and then they repeat back to you a nusach and tell you that your dream was good, and then it purifies the negative dream into a positive dream. And this is like the 4th rung that I want to talk about. There's even more rungs on the ladder of dreams, but this is about interpreting dreams. So the 4th rung of the ladder is interpreting a negative dream that you're worried it might have any level of prophecy into a positive dream, and that our dreams end up following the interpretation. That just like Yosef's dream, it says follow the interpretation. And something extra that I learned this time is that the interpretation has to resonate with you. Because by Paro, it says that he had a lot of people, he had a dream that was making him very worried. His dreams that were fat cows coming out of the water and the skinny cows were coming out of the water and they were eating the fat cows. And then the same thing with the bundles of wheat. The skinny bundles of wheat were eating the big bundles of wheat. And the Rashi says, the Torah says, the ain poster osam leparo. There was no one to interpret it to Paro. Rashi says from the Medrash, there was tons of people. What do you mean? He had tons of dream interpreters. None of them interpreted it to him. Well, he would kill them. They all did, but none of them liparo. None of the answers resonated with him. They all tried. They said, you're going to have 7 daughters born, but 7 are going to die. You're going to conquer 7 kingdoms, but 7. None of them resonated. None of them made sense to him. Only when Yosef came did it work. It made sense, and it worked. It made sense, and it clicked for him. So you have to try and find a way that you can interpret the dream in a way that you understand it, that you interpret it, and think about the positive interpretation of the dream, and that it will follow the positive interpretation. So dreams follow their interpretation. So those are the 4 levels of dreams for today. There's so many more infinite things that we learn about the idea of dreams. And again, I want to just end off with the idea that dreaming itself tells us the idea of dreaming informs us more than the actual dream. The fact that we could have a dream, that we learn that when Mashiach comes, we say in Tehillim, and we say this in benching, Shir Malos B'Shuv Hashem Et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kecholmim, that when Mashiach comes, we're going to look back at Galut and say, Hayinu Kecholmim, we were like dreamers. What is the connection between Galut and dreaming? Just like when you wake up from a bad dream and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so real. In my dream, have you ever had a dream where it felt so real in that moment and you wake up and you're like, wow, like, I can't believe that was just a dream, and it crosses over into reality, and I'm like, during the day, I'm like, oh wait, that was just a dream. I'm not really mad at this person, right? That was just a dream. So that's how real Galus feels right now. When Mashiach comes, we're going to wake up and be like, I can't believe that reality that we felt was so real. And it doesn't mean that what's happening now is fake. It doesn't mean that we're living in a dream, but it means that the things that we believe about the world, the realities that we believe in, the things that we think are powerful, the things that we think have meaning, the physical reality that we think is what's that money, fame, power, all those things that we actually like, who's in charge of which country and who's leading the country, all the things that we so believe now, they feel so real and they feel like it really matters. All the things on social media we see that we feel like those things are so important and those things are so influential, those things really matter. Wake up from Galus will be like, wait, that was a dream. Like, I can't believe that it felt so real in that moment and it was just a dream. And that's one level of how we're going to wake up from this dream of Galus, right? And in Galus now we can already realize that we're just like a dream, that these things are not actually real. And it's hard in a dream to tell yourself what you're dreaming. But if we can understand that when Mashiach comes, we're going to look back. And that's just one level. There's a lot of, we're going to have to do a part 3 of dreaming about the levels of what a dream and Galus tells us about. But on the positive note, that we learn that only in a dream could opposites exist, and only because we're in Galus and we're in this dreamlike state could we have this reality. Only because we're in this opposite reality and we're in a dream could we have a reality where human beings could be so physical and so spiritual at the same time. So that's why we have to be in this dream of Galus. It's not like a bad thing that we're here in this, like we call it, sometimes it feels like a nightmare, but only because we're in this dream, and in a dream, dual realities can coexist and somehow it makes sense, and you wake up, we're like, how did that even happen? We're going to wake up from Galus, we're going to be like, how did that happen? We were so physical people, pulled downwards to all materialistic things, especially in this generation with like everywhere we go, materialistic allures. And then at the same time, we're such spiritual people. We're davening, we're connecting to Hashem, we're doing chesed, we're overcoming our bodily desires, and we're able to do these two opposites. It doesn't even make sense. We accept it because we're in this dream. But from an outside reality, it says that people, the tzaddikim of the previous generations look at our generation and say, how are they doing that? And our generation is a generation of Yaakov, we're called the sons of Yaakov, and we're in the generation of Yaakov. It says it comes from the lashon of Ekev, that we're the lowest of the low generation. This generation before Mashiach, it says we are the Ifot to Mashiach, the heels of Mashiach, that the Yaakov's name was for the lowest part of Am Yisrael, for when we're at our lowest, when we're like so desensitized from spirituality, we're so coarse and physical, like the heel of the body. And I'm going to tie all this in now to Yaakov Avinu, because this is what Yaakov Avinu was all about. Yaakov's essence was about specifically fusing, like in a dream, the Gashmius and the Ruchnius. Yaakov was the first of the Avot to leave Eretz Yisrael and to go down into the darkness and to go down into Haran. And if you go to the first verse in this week's Parsha, we see that it says, Vayetzei Yaakov, I don't even have my sources, Me'be'er Sheva Vayelech Harana. I'm just guessing, but Yaakov left Be'er Sheva and he went to Haran. And Kabbalah tells us that that is a pasuk that in Torah we don't just read it as Yaakov went to Haran. It's a journey that every one of us goes through. Yaakov is our soul. Every one of us is Yaakov, has Yaakov inside of us. Every one of us goes on this journey from Be'er Sheva, from a place that's a wellspring of Sova, of abundance, and Shemayim before she is born. Vayeret Haran, and we go down into this world of Haran Af Olam, a world of darkness, a world of anger, a world of fighting, a world of terror. We go into this terrifying world. Why do we complete this journey? Why would Hashem send Yaakov to such a dark place? Why would our neshama go from such a joyful place, a place of Be'er Seva, of abundance, down to Haran? Because only in Haran, only in this dark place, in this world, can we truly accomplish the greatest accomplishment of turning darkness into light, of having the greatest abundance. And at the end of the Parsha, it says, Vayifrot Seish Ma'od Ma'od. Yaakov became exceedingly abundant and wealthy, specifically by being in the darkness. In going down into the darkest places, going down into this world of opposites, that's when we have true connection. That's where we find true growth, true meaning, true avodas Hashem. And before that, when there's no tests, when we're all in Kedusha, when there's no dark and light to deal with, there's no real avoda, right? There's no real battle. The real meaning and the real satisfaction happens when you go into a place that's dark, and there you do your avoda. And we learn from this, that Yaakov was the first of the Avos. All of his children were tzaddikim. Both Avraham and Yitzchak had children who were rebellious. And it's crazy because they raised their children in Eretz Yisrael, the place of Kedusha. Yaakov raised his children in Haran, in a place full of depravity, of darkness, of evil, of Lavan, surrounded by their grandfather who was a wicked man. How did he merit to have children who were all tzaddikim and his parents didn't? So we learn that specifically it's because he lived in a place of darkness, he was equipped to deal with darkness when it happened. Because they sheltered themselves and their children, Avram and Yitzchak, they never left Eretz Yisrael. They weren't equipped to deal with darkness. So when darkness appeared in their children, what did? They did what they always did with darkness. They expelled it. They pushed it away. They disconnected from it. And that's what Avram did with Yishmael. When he saw darkness, he just disconnected from Yishmael. He said, I can't deal with you, right? Whenever there's darkness, I just have to remove myself from it. Because he didn't have the tools to deal with darkness. He stayed in Eretz Yisrael and Kedusha his whole life. Yitzchak was the same thing. When he had Esav, he distanced himself from Esav to a level. He was disassociated. He didn't know what was bad about Esav. He just disassociated and disconnected from the bad because he didn't know how to deal and elevate the bad because he stayed in Eretz Yisrael his whole life. Even though Avram did leave to other places, but he raised his children in Eretz Yisrael. And he never really absorbed himself in a bad place to be able to work with the bad, just distancing himself. Yaakov went down into Haran, married his wives in Haran, worked in Haran, worked the land, worked with sheep, and dealt with the darkness, dealt with Lavan and all his cunningness, and there he learned the skills of how to deal with darkness, not just how to expel it, but how to overcome, how to conquer darkness within you also. And because Lavan went down to Haran, he was equipped to deal with any darkness that would arise in his children, and therefore he was able to deal with it and not just push them away and say, okay, you're bad, bye, right? He was able to deal with it and overcome, and that's how Mitas Shlema. So equipping by and in an emotional way, a lot of times when we have a bad feeling come up, and I think we all deal with this in our lives, we were raised in a generation, I think, that when a bad emotion came up, it was like, everything's okay, you're good, you're fine, right? Nothing is wrong, everything is okay, covering up the bad, which was like, in a way, disconnecting from it. And now this generation, we're hearing so much about like, well, no, it's not okay. You're really sad. You have a really bad feeling. That is, our inner child gets very triggered by that because we were raised where like bad feelings are just like distracted from, ignored. We just don't want to think about them because we didn't have the tools to deal with it. But now we're realizing that it's so much, and then those things end up getting buried somewhere, and they come up in bad ways, and we just disconnect, and we end up being disconnected from the world. And now we're knowing that the best way to deal with bad feelings in ourselves and in our children is not to say you're fine, you're okay, you have no boo boo, you're all better. It's to say, oh, you were really sad. To accept and make space for the bad feeling, to be able to be okay with the bad feeling and overcome it together, and not just say I'm disconnecting from this bad feeling. I'm just going to run away and hide and give you a pacifier or a lolly and make it go away, right? To say that really hurts. That was so sad. You had a really hard day. That must have been so sad for you. And it's a scary thing for us to go towards the darkness, to go towards it, to overcome it. But it's something that we realize at the end when we go towards the darkness, even in ourselves, if we have a scary feeling of shame or I feel bad, I feel jealous, I feel afraid, the first thing that I do is just be like, no, I don't feel that. It's a bad feeling. I don't want to deal with it. Let me just open my phone and see what's interesting to distract from that feeling. Let me eat something fast. But as I'm growing in my own self-work, I'm realizing that the best thing to do is say, well, I am feeling jealous. I am feeling sad. I am feeling bad about myself. I am feeling ashamed. I am feeling bad about my body or whatever it is that I'm feeling. And that's a feeling that I have, and that's okay. And the more I get to it, I'm like, this is not as scary as I thought. Like, I would rather like do anything than go to that feeling. But I'm not saying I'm good at it. But when you go towards it, you realize that coming towards the darkness, it is so much more powerful than running away from it. And that's how we can really overcome the darkness. When we move towards it, we don't run away and shut ourselves out and hide and lock ourselves in a box. When we move towards it and explore the darkness within ourselves, within our midst. That was not where I was planning to take the class today. But I thought that was a really cool connection also in this Parsha, where we see that stones make a very prominent appearance in this week's Parsha. Stones keep appearing. The first place we see stones is where Yaakov is laying down and he has his dream. It says that he puts stones around his head, and he wakes up and there's one stone, because the stones formed one stone because they all wanted to be under the tzaddik's head. Then Yaakov makes up by the well, when he gets to the well and he meets Rachel, there's a big stone covering the well, and he has to, and with one pinky, he takes the stone off the well and wins Rachel's affection. Then another time that stones appear in this week's parsha. I mean, stones are it says Evan everywhere. Then at the end of the parsha, where Lavan chases after Yaakov because he wants Yaakov to come back, and Yaakov ran away with his wife and children in the middle of the night. Lavan, they make a pact that they're not going to hurt each other, and what do? They make a pile of stones. They say, this pile of stones, the Eid Hagal Hazeh. This pile of stones is going to be the witness that we're not, Gal is the aid, and this is going to be the witness that we're not going to hurt each other and our children over generations, right? That was their pact. Now, stones represent like Yaakov's avoda, because Yaakov didn't stay minutak and spiritual, and even though he started off his life Yoshev Ohalim, connecting to spirituality, that fortified him to be able to then go down into Haran and deal with stones, which are the lowest level of materialistic things in this world. The four levels of creation are Domim, Sameach, Chayim, Medaber, inanimate objects, plant life, animal life, and then humans. And he was able to even deal with stones with the lowest level of reality, and bring kedusha down to the lowest level of darkness. So that was just my thoughts about it. Take it or leave it, about why stones appear, because that was like who Yaakov was. And actually, the Zohar says in the beginning of the Parsha, it says, Vayifka b'makom hahu, that Yaakov went to the place where he had the dream, and there he encountered angels in his sleep. But on the way out, because he had gone down into the darkness and dealt with darkness and overcome it and conquered it, on his way out, when it says that the angels met Yaakov on the way out, it has a very similar lashon, but a little bit different. And the Zohar comments on it. It says, I have to find the source because I'm actually commenting on this. Let's see. On his way out, the last pasuk, it says Yaakov is, this week's parsha, Vayetzei, Yaakov goes down into Haran, and at the end of the parsha, he comes back out. He leaves with his children. And when he's coming out, it says, last pasuk, Yaakov halach ladarko, and Yaakov went on his way, Vayifku ubo. On the way there, he went to the place, and the angels came to him in a dream. And here it says, Vayifku ubo malachei Elokim. Angels of Hashem came to him. Because of his avoda with darkness, he was on a much higher level. He was vayifratz ma'od ma'od. He became exceedingly wealthy with godly sparks, and now he was in the level where the angels came to him. They came to find him, and not even in a dream, to seek him out, but not even in the level of a dream. He didn't have to be asleep to encounter that high level of angels. He was able to encounter it. So we see the power of being able to be in Galus now, tying it back into dreaming, to be in a state of darkness, of this dreamlike state, where we're in Galus and it's so dark and there's so much atrocities can happen, things that are unfathomable, that we're going to wake up and be like, that was a nightmare. But at the same time, only in this Galus-like state, in this place of darkness, can opposites occur. Can we have spirituality and materialism connect, which are two opposites that shouldn't even be able to merge or be connected. Body and soul coexist and live together. The fact that we're coming by day to day, being physical human beings, dealing with physicality, but also being spiritual, coming to a Torah class, that's unreal. It doesn't even make sense. It's illogical. It makes no sense. And the fact that we can do that is because we're in this state of dreaming and we're able to take the advantage of this moment to be able to realize that we are an anomaly. Every human being, every Jew is a walking anomaly. We have these Yaakov and Esav inside of us, and we're able to fuse the two and do our best to balance the both and live a life that's both materialistic and elevating and infusing spirituality into the physical, that we're fulfilling the greatest goal of why Hashem created this reality. And hopefully we'll be on the other side. We'll be able to say, we'll be able to wake up from the darkness of this vision, have it be removed, and look back and see how everything made sense and how everything was clear. Thank you so much for joining. L'chaim, it should be very, very soon. And we should have all the hostages back very, very safely very soon. That's totally not the class.